This episode is brought to you by America's Rehab Campus. Get on the road to recovery with the best rehab in beautiful Arizona. Dial 1-833-272-7342. That's 1-833-ARC-REHAB.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the ARCast.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is going down? Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the ARCast. My name is Buddha, and I'm in the studio today with one of my homeboys. And it's crazy. We're going to go into the story of how we met and what he's doing in the community. But everyone that we're bringing in here, man, they're powerful powerhouses in the community, doing things to help each other. You know, and I've known this guy for a few years. I truly believe in my heart that, you know, with relationships, friendships, you know, whatever it is, when God puts people in your life, sometimes they're there for a season, sometimes they're there for a lifetime, sometimes they're there for a reason. And my buddy right here that I got in the studio with me is my brother, man, and this is somebody that I feel like this is why we were meant to connect, dog. So everybody get about your seat and give a huge round of applause to my homeboy, the president, El Presidente, Jamal Givens. What's going down, dog?
What's up?
How you doing, bro?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Just out here trying to make it happen.
Yeah?
Yeah. Trying to help people, help myself, and just keep moving, man. No doubts.
That's cool, man. It's good to see you, bro.
Hey, it's good seeing you. It's been a little minute, but we both hustling, grinding and whatnot. So it's cool, man.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I was looking online and I saw that you've been doing like a podcast and stuff with your son. What's going on with that?
Yeah, man. Me and my son, Zion Jamal Givens.
Shout out.
Yeah, we got a Up to It podcast. And it's a father-son. We were doing some research and really looked out there and said, that we saw that there weren't really any men of color, father-son podcasts really out there. And we wanted to come together. He and I do a lot of things together as far as in the space of prevention and intervention of substance use and misuse and promoting mental health and wellness. And we were like, man, why don't we just do a podcast and share with young men out there the conversations that he and I used to have when he was growing up.
Yeah.
And so we spent, when he was coming up, I was always, training, coaching, inspiring him, putting things in him that my father put in me, that was around spirituality and just making good decisions, and my mom as well. And so we were like, let's share with people kind of the conversations that we had.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's just give it a shot. So Up to It podcast out there, Zion, he's I think 22 now, graduated recently, about 4 years ago from Tucson High School out here.
That's cool.
And ended up going to ASU for a minute. And then he decided that during COVID that, wanted to take a break. And so then he ended up getting a job in the field of behavioral health.
Is he really? That's cool.
Yeah, doing prevention work.
Wow.
And, he's killing it, man. He's killing it. One of the things that he's able to do well is connect with the younger people because he's young himself and got a little swagger and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And in addition to that, he loves hip hop, underground hip hop. And he has his own podcast also called Takeover Lounge, where they interview a lot of artists. If you remember, I think you did something with him at the Dunbar.
Yeah, man, that was good times. He was even younger back then. That's crazy. He was already doing.
He was in
stuff
high school. Yeah, he was a junior in high school at the time when he put that on and reached out to you, and you came out and did a show.
Yeah.
And so so he's out there being a positive man, influencing young people in a positive way, and just the father-son thing, man. You don't get a chance to see that a lot, and being men of color, just showing that we are positive, we communicate with our kids, because I believe that the narrative out there is that, black men don't hold it down. And not only black men, but men of color, because my son he's biracial, Blaxican.
Yeah,
so, and that we just don't communicate well, and we don't do things in a positive manner. And so we wanted to show something different. And we're putting that out there and trying to see where it goes. And we bring in guests ourselves, just different. Like we had Dr. Sherrod Robbins on recently.
Oh, wow.
He was talking about using the N-word and where that comes from, and why we want to look at perhaps not using that and why it's so triggering. We had another woman on just recently, Christiana, who's an entrepreneur. And she was sharing with people just about, the importance of connectedness in the entrepreneurial space and going to social networking events and putting yourself out there. And
that's cool. That's really cool stuff.
And letting letting young people know that, do it scared. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And sometimes you got to put the controller down from the PS5, right? and get some social connection, because, it's not always what you know, but who you know.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it's not always about, who you know, but who knows you.
Yeah.
And so in order for that to happen, you got to be out in spaces and saying hello to people and giving high fives and, giving a pound once in a while and connecting. So, and I think that's the one thing that young people need to remember. I know COVID threw a curveball at all of us, right? I mean, just worldwide, we were all in that together. And it's easy to slip and stay into just looking at the, Zoom.
Yeah.
And or Google Hang. I don't want to, just give unless we're gonna get some royalties from a Zoom or something.
Yeah, for real.
Right. But it's not just about staying online.
We are open for sponsorship.
Right. Exactly right. It's about like spending, time with people, man. You know what I mean? And so that's really what it's all about. I'm just trying to share information. So yeah, the Up to a podcast. Check it out. Me and Z doing big things. Zion Givens, like I said, but he goes by Z Give.
Okay.
So yeah, he's going hard, man. He's going hard.
Z Give to the community, bro. That's what it is.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So shout out. And ladies and gentlemen, for everyone listening, make sure to check the show notes of the episode. If you guys want to check it out, I think it's fantastic. I love seeing people in the community doing things that are uplifting. Let's see if I remember the phrase. It's up to it, down to it. We do it because we're used to it.
Yes.
But no, I think that's fantastic, man. And like that's what made me interested in, really wanting to bring you on here, is because I know, how they say everybody's got a reason for why they do what they do. And back when I was really, really doing the music stuff, man, you gave a lot to me, bro, in a lot of different ways, like as a mentor, as a friend, as looking at somebody like an influence of somebody who's not just doing things for themselves. You're doing things for the community, and coming to where things are now, being able to focus on this podcast and bring amazing people into the community. It's like, I always think about those like pillars in my life, like those people who help to, to just seeing how you guys are so selfless in doing things for other people in the community. Like, I think that's really, really cool. So that was one of my things, was, to not only talk about what you're doing now, but also what made you want to get involved in this type of field. Was that something that was a part of your life growing up? Yeah, man. It was, you got me going back here, which is all good, is really my dad, man. And him like just sharing that it's important to do God's work, you know what I mean? And he called it kingdom work. And like that. Yeah, kingdom work, man. And it was, I kind of fell into it a little bit, because what happened was, I'm a privileged black man. And so, and what I mean by that, and I say that with love, because my mom and dad made some sacrifices so that my brother and I could have a better life. And so I was born in Inglewood, LA. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, I was born in Inglewood up to no good. And I was raised, born like, 3-4 blocks from the Forum, you know what I'm saying, where the Lakers was known and whatnot. And so my mom and dad were military. And so my dad moved into Inglewood because that's where that's where black folks was moving, and they were coming up a little bit and whatnot. And unfortunately, around the time that I was coming up as a young buck, gangs started moving. That's when gangs started to kind of become known, and they're doing their stuff or whatever. Yeah. And I had seen some stuff, man, that made my dad say, yo, I got to do something differently for my son. Because it was me first, and then my brother came 4 years later. And when my brother was born, he was just like, yo, we got to shake this up a little bit. Because what I had seen, man, was, I used to live across from a park. And the gangs would be in the park. There'd be shootings at night, and I see cats get caught up. And then there was I saw a dude get shot on my corner because there was a convenience store gas station on the corner. And I'm like 5-6 years old. Wow. You know what I mean? And I'm, it's literally just down the block. So I'm on the street on my big wheel, you know what I'm saying? Like, just enjoying life. Yeah, just doing it, you know what I mean? And see this cat run out of the convenience store, man, and, ends up popping the cashier or whatever. And I saw that, and my dad was like, yo, I can't, we gotta get up out of here. And with my dad's military connections, and my dad being a photoscience engineer, the trade that he learned in the Air Force, he was able to find a job overseas.
in working in the oil company. He's not in the oil field, but so we went overseas, man. There soon after, me seeing some of the things that I had seen. But I should share though, it was my dad did try to, make it safe for us to come up. So much so that he bought a retired guard dog. It was a German Shepherd, and her name was Fricka. And it was kind of cool, man, because I could go across the street to the park with this German Shepherd, and she would obey my commands. If I say, come, heel, stay.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I'm like a little kid, commanding this big German Shepherd. Like I said, it's retired. So I could go across the street, man, and play. Nobody would mess with me. But she would scare the hell out of people, man, the gang members. Because, sometimes, a Frisbee might go over by the gang members or whatever, or a ball or something, and she just take off. And them them bros was like, oh, hold up, snap, what? Like, get that dog, right? And I'd be like, frickin' come.
That G stuff go out the window as soon as the dog comes.
Right, for real, man. Yeah, they weren't hard. They weren't as hard anymore. I was like, you still see the little kid in them, you know what I mean? So that was kind of funny once in a while. So anyway, man, my dad ended up getting, like he said, he was trying to put some things in place so we could stay there. But it just got out of hand, man. It just got out of hand. And so he was like, okay, let's bounce. So we ended up going to Saudi Arabia. Okay. My dad ended up working for an oil company called Saudi Aramco. It was Aramco at the time, but it's now Saudi Aramco. It's the largest producing oil company in the world. And I was basically raised there, man, from 7 years old till till I got out of college and all that.
In Saudi Arabia?
Yeah,
you were there.
Yeah.
You were there that long?
Yeah. So
was that a culture shock for you? Like even at 7 years old, did it trip you out being in?
Nah, man. It was just you don't know no different or no better. And it's just for a minute, just like going on vacation. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, I'm in a different country. Okay,
wow.
Let me see how to move and groove, and I'm just looking for little friends to hang out with, and So we went there. And then to tell the story, man, it's crazy. So the first time we went to Saudi, my dad was with the company, and that company, was taking care of us and everything. And it was a situation where my parents were involved. I should say my mom, not my dad at the time, but in using substances, using marijuana.
Okay.
My dad grew up in that era. My dad didn't use. He used to when he was he messed with it once in a while when he was younger, he said, but my dad was a pianist, played the organ and director of the choir for gospel choirs and stuff like that, and also had a band, and that goes into the Saudi piece, but I'll get to that in a minute. And so what had happened was my mom was able to get in Saudi Arabia. You're not supposed to have drugs at all. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
What happens if you get caught with some over there?
You can get decapitated. You can get lashes. You can get you could die, man. Literally, they can put you in prison. I mean, the gamut it's full. I mean, you could die.
Wow.
They can, and so to that point, what's crazy is so my mom had a little bit of marijuana that she had gotten from somebody in the community. I mean, again, Americans. They found a way to get their hands on things, and my mom made some bad choices. So she had some stuff, and we had gone out to dinner. Especially my parents went out to dinner, and they had somebody watching my brother and I. It was like a teenager in our compound. We call it a compound. And they, I don't know if they had heard that my mom had some, or they were just, teenagers looking around in drawers or whatever, and they found a joint that my mom had. And they ended up on a balcony smoking it, and then somebody across the way saw them or whatever, and reported it. And then what happened was, not sure what happened at that point in time, but the next day, I think it was, or next week, those same teenagers knew that my mom had some stuff, so they broke into our house, and so we lived on the second floor. And so they climbed up onto the balcony or whatever, and nobody locked their doors. And sorry, because if you break into something, you literally can get in trouble. Serious trouble.
Same trouble as if you find drugs on.
Yeah, exactly. Similar, man. Saudi don't play, man. Saudi Arabia don't play. And so, again, another neighbor saw them and was like, yo, what are y'all doing? And ended up calling security. And security came out and they ended up having some stuff on them. And of course, they were like, it's not ours. We got it from their house, this, that, and the other, which was true. And so next thing you know, man, literally we were deported, if you will, or transported out of the country within like 8 hours. Within 8 hours. Like they came, it was like 8 or 10 o'clock at night, security and then some other folks. I don't even know who they were or whatever, but they were officials for the company that was like, yo, we got to get them out of here, because if the locals, the nationals know what happened, then we got to go under their law. But because the company my dad worked for at that time, you know, they protect their employees, but if you make stupid mistakes. So literally, bruh, 10 o'clock, I remember 8 or 9 to 10 o'clock at night, they're talking to us and saying like, yo, you know, my dad was like, yo, I got to go pack up your stuff or whatever, you can put it in a suitcase. And then like our plane left at like 5 o'clock that morning. We were out, boom, gone, everything.
Wow.
Just like that, man. And that might be part of the reason why maybe that's where, you know, I didn't realize it at the time, but now, you know, why maybe I'm have a challenge with substances impacting people's lives, because it impacted ours.
Yeah.
Just by a bad decision or choice that my mom made that rocked our world, because we didn't know where we're coming back to. My dad didn't have anything necessarily set up for us to come back to.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on a plane within 8 hours. Where are we going to live? Where are we going to stay? You know what I mean? What are we going to do? We got family, yeah, but my dad hadn't been that connected to his family for a minute, because he's been in the military, traveling, doing his thing. And so, I mean, we had a Benz, you know what I'm saying? We was living the life. Again, the the condominium that we had that was on the second floor or whatever, it was tight, man. We was living, you know what I mean? And I got all disrupted and then ended up coming to the States. I don't know why my dad picked, how he picked, what he picked, but we ended up being in Atlanta. I mean, my dad had 8 hours. I'm sure they were like,
just pick one.
Yeah, where you want to go? You got to tell us, because you got to go.
Yeah.
We don't care, you know what I'm saying? Because if we don't get you out of here, you could literally, you know, lose your life. And so he picked Atlanta. I don't know why, but he did. And so ended up being in Atlanta, man, landed in Atlanta and spent a year or two there. Yeah, and our life was disrupted, man. We were living out of a hotel, man, for like a few months until my dad could find a job, you know, get some paper up under him, get some things going again. But, you know, my dad, I mean, again, I don't know what happened, you know, in the bedroom or the conversation between my mom and dad whatsoever, because my dad and mom were making sure that it didn't, you know, impact us as much as it, you know, that it could have. But ended up, you know, my dad making it work, man. And my mom too. My mom ended up getting a job at Coca-Cola. Atlanta, that's where Coca-Cola's from.
Wow.
And my dad ended up getting a job doing some of the work that he was doing, but just for, you know, in America. And ended up getting an apartment first. Wasn't as nice as the one we had in Saudi.
And how old were you at this time when you came
now,
back?
probably about 8 or 9.
So it was a couple years.
Yeah.
Years. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was back for, so I said like we left when I was 6 or 7. Left Cali, stayed there in Saudi probably for like a year and a half or so before that popped off. And then, being in Atlanta for another year and a half or 2 tops, because I remember going to school. I remember being in 2nd or 3rd grade, man, and having to be in like that's where life like changed for me, man. Yeah, we're beginning to recognize things or understand different things. Because, man, I had to go to after school programming at the YMCA and stuff like that. And that's where I learned how to fight, because you had to hold your own. It was really weird, man. It was some of the places we were a little rough, man.
Coming back.
Yeah, being in Atlanta, it was a little rough, man.
So was that more of a culture shock for you coming back from Saudi Arabia that first time?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
And, hanging with my peoples and then figuring out how to move within it, man. Like, yeah, so I said, learn how to fight, man, and having to throw down. And remember this one time, man, this dude just kept picking on me, because I'm a big dude, heavy set, no doubts. What my man Gabriel say, fluffy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Shout out to Gabriel.
Right? And trying to figure out, like, saying how to move in these spaces at the YMCA. And this dude would always pick on me, man. And it wasn't even about my weight. It was just, they were clowning. And I didn't know how to clap back at him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have the gift of gab like, he had or whatever. And again, like we 8 or 9 years old. And I remember, man, I just got so fed up. And this actually happened to me even in California. I got a limit. And once it gets past that limit, man, I just flipped the F out. I'll tell a story in a minute about that. But this kid, man, like just kept like digging on me. Man, he had a fro. And I threw a couple of punches. Next thing you know, I grabbed that brother by his fro. And I was just like spinning him around by his head and his fro. And then threw him across the room. Because, I was strong, you know what I'm saying? And I just remember, man, and then we got in trouble. So they were like, yo, if y'all gonna fight, y'all gotta put on the gloves. And you guys got to go to the middle of the center of the floor.
I like that. In
the gym, you have to like dance in there. And like fight. You know what I'm saying? And so put the gloves on. And gloves hurt, man.
Yeah.
I remember he caught me one time in my rear. I was like, Next thing you know, man, we was at it. We was going. And, lit him up a couple of times. He definitely got some in on me. And that's when I learned, like, no matter when you fight, even if you win, you still can get hurt. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Still walk away with a black eye or hurt ribs or whatever it may be. You ain't really win.
Yeah.
You walking away with some damage too.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, man, that's where I kind of learned how to fight. And, when I was in Atlanta and, learning just about, people slanging and at a young age, man, it was crazy just what I was seeing and kind of exposed to and learning. And that's what's kind of ironic is that my dad was trying to get us out of that, leaving LA, Inglewood, and then end up in Atlanta kind of dealing with the same thing. It was on a different level because it wasn't necessarily gangs. So it was just people that were slanging.
That's what I was going to ask was like, what were the similarities like in comparison? Like what were the differences from ATL to, LA? Like was it pretty much like the same type of culture?
No. So that's what I was going to say. No, I appreciate you. Yeah. It was different because it was different just the way that they moved. And so I'm just an observant person and kid. I've always just been observant. I just watch a lot of times, even till this day. Like I go into new spaces and I'm just kind of, people are like, yo, how come you're not being yourself? I'm like, oh, this is a new space for me. Let me just check it out for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like just, popping off. I'm not one of those cats that walk in like, hey, what's that? Now, if I've been there for a minute, then yeah. But in the beginning, I'm observing. I guess that's just in my spirit.
Yeah.
To be that way ever since I was little, just watching what's going on and what's moving. I see things that sometimes people don't see. And I think that was probably just having to be careful, when I was a little one in Inglewood and after seeing what I did see. But the difference was, as I ponder it now and think about it, was just in Inglewood with the gangs, it was about violence, right? And they were making sure their territory and like just the stuff about gangs. In Atlanta, they weren't, don't get me wrong, they can go in that way, but that's not how they were moving. It wasn't, they were just selling, you know what I mean? And so I could see that they weren't necessarily, unless somebody did them wrong. It was normally against, and the thing is, they didn't even look like gangs. Like the brothers, they just looked just normal, like, you know what I mean? But the gangs, they were sporting their colors and, all that stuff. In Atlanta, when I was coming up, they didn't move like that. They used to look like normal cats that was just in the streets, you know what I mean, doing their thing. And so it was kind of difficult to tell. So that's one of the things that I noticed that was different. But the other thing that was interesting though was because Atlanta, I lived in College Park. So those that
what is it? College Park, Bubba Sparks.
yeah, right. Yeah. So I was in College Park, man, and again, this was a community that was coming up for Black folks. And my dad ended up getting us a nice house, you know what I mean? And my little subdivision that we lived in was dope, and it was cool. I mean, we had a roller skating ring down the way, and that's when roller skating was in, and brothers doing their thing, and get to meet the little ladies and whatnot. And so this is even, and like I said, this is 3rd, 4th grade.
I miss those, bro. Those roller skating rings, those are so fun, bro. Oh man, that's cool.
And so just And again, I'm little, man, so I'm not thinking about a career or a job or anything like that, right? I'm just taking this all in. And so, like, yeah, just to go back a little bit as far as the like, I got a limit and I'll flip, and my mom, had to teach me how to control it. But my threshold is high though. I mean, my tolerance is high. But if I get to that point, is because I remember in L.A. I guess I was playing with one of my friends. I guess I was 5 or 6. My mom says, I don't know, my mom tells a story all the time where she's like, yeah, I was out the window just washing dishes. I was in the house looking out the window and I was washing dishes, and she's like, I saw you, Jamal, man, like your friend Kevin, he did something to you, and next thing you know, you picked up that metal tricycle. It was about to slam it on. I had to run out the house, baby, and get you.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
And I don't remember what it was, but he got me to a point where I was so frustrated.
Should have been talking shit.
Right. Had to let him know, like, yo, picking up a metal tricycle. I'm 5 years old. I don't know if people remember those metal. I'm aging myself probably a little bit, but
dude, those things were heavy, bro.
Yo, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm over. She said it was over my head, and I was about to slam him. So again, just levels a threshold and trying to figure that out. But in Atlanta, man, it was good times though, man.
That's
it was
good.
Good times. It was really interesting too when you think about, I don't know what it was, and I can't put my finger on it, but it was also very I don't know, and maybe this is for a lot of other people, but very, how would you say this, like just a lot of energy around sex in the area.
So what year is this? This is the 80s?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, the culture, like you said, College Park is coming up. You got Rick James. You got all kinds of cool ass music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the Charlie Murphy. That's the 80s right there, bro.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? So like, it makes perfect sense because that was just emphasized a lot back then.
Yeah.
People were getting more comfortable with sexuality, and the cocaine's hell of a drug. That was starting to come out in the 80s too. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. Yeah. Because I just remember, like, there's just all this energy around, not the initial act of sex, but just sexualized.
Mm-hmm.
I think even, I forget a movie that came out that was kind of risque. Dang, man.
Back in the 80s?
High school, Fast Times at Ridgemont.
Oh yeah,
I think around then. That might have been later though.
All right.
You're right. but anyway, I just remember. Yeah, and I guess I don't see it the way that I did then. Even now, even though I think, like, I see, because I work in high schools and things of that nature. But it's still different. It was a lot more. I know, like, adults now are like, oh my God, they're like. Nah, it was a lot more to me from my perspective back then.
I think so.
But anyway, the reason I bring that up is just to say that, again, you were just asking, like, what the difference and what I was seeing and coming up. And I think those were some of the things that, for me, that were happening. And that's when rap was just beginning. Like, so, Jermaine Dupri and all them were, out and about toward the 80s, right? Mid 80s.
Yeah.
And basketball, definitely huge in Atlanta. So again, my dad didn't want me in that environment. And so he was making connections. And so we went back to Saudi about 1.5 years, 2 years later.
Oh man.
And with a different company, because what had happened wasn't on the books. Nobody, I mean, it was like they erased us, from that first company and even being out there, which is good for, my family.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, we went back as if though nothing happened. My mom, of course, she was devastated in the choices that she made. So she laid that stuff down, marijuana, and didn't mess with it at all. And yeah, we went back, man. And then, rest is history. I mean, we just lived there for the rest of, my parents came back to the States, I think in, I want to say 2005.
That's when you came back with them, bro?
7. Well, so yeah, what's interesting, no, I was already here. So living in Saudi Arabia and working for Saudi Aramco, when you get to 9th grade, you have to leave the country because you're a teenager, and the things that we were just talking about, drugs, sex, rock and roll.
Yeah.
They don't want you interfering with their culture. So as an American that was there working for a company, they say, you got to go. So your parents have 2 options. Your parents can either, quit the company or retire or leave or whatever they want to do, or they can send you to boarding school. Your parents can send you to boarding school. And so there were a couple of our friends whose parents were like, nah, I'm not sending my baby to boarding school and this, that, and the other. So they ended up leaving the company and moving back to the States, and their parents found another job and did whatever they had to do. But the majority of our parents sent us to boarding schools. So boarding school, and that's why I say I'm privileged. It goes back to the whole privilege thing, is that
this is so fascinating to me. It really is, man.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, when you work for an oil company, I mean, your parents are making paper. You're making mad money. So anyway, that's why I say I'm privileged, because I've had these opportunities that many don't get, especially being black. So my boarding school it's like applying for college. So at a young age, me and my friends, we had to like apply to these different boarding schools. And there's boarding schools all over the nation and the world. And, you know, when you're in that environment with these people that have been doing this for a day, they're like, hey, do you want to go to, you know, Tassis, France? That's the name of one of the boarding schools. Or Tassis, Rome. Or you want to go to Switzerland? They got boarding schools there. Or do you want to go to Hawaii Prep? Hawaii has a boarding school. Connecticut has a ton of well-known boarding schools. You know, you can go to Vermont. You can go to Texas. I forget the other one. There's another military. One military that I'm very familiar with was Culver. I forget where that is. Some of my friends went there. And so you got to apply to these schools, though. Even though you got money, you still got to apply. And they're also looking, I mean, these are private schools, of course, right? And they're looking for certain people or certain caliber of folks and whatnot. So you're applying just like you do when people might be more be able to understand to college, but it's the same thing for boarding school. So, and with that comes rejections also.
That's nuts.
In boarding school. And here you are, you know what I'm saying, 13, 14, and applying to these schools, and you get rejection letters. You know what I mean? So most middle and high schoolers ain't even thinking about that yet. They're trying to wait until, you know, junior, senior year. But here you are, you know, like I said, you know, transitioning from that middle to high school and having to deal with that. So I applied to a few schools. I think one was Stony Brook. And then I applied to St. Johnsbury Academy. I think I applied to one more school. And I didn't get accepted to Stony Brook. But in Stony Brook was like the one school that a lot of my friends were going to go to, because it had it's also a lot of people from our church were, and people were like, church in Saudi? Yeah, is Islam, but Muslim. But because we're on a compound, which is kind of like a base, if you will. Yeah. But not, we could do the things that Americans can do. Outside of the base, no. Or compound. But anyway, we had a non-denominational church, and we would do, you know, have church and stuff like that. But a lot of the students that I was kicking it with, they were going to Stony Brook. And my test scores, I guess, weren't good enough. And I didn't meet their, so I got that rejection letter, man. And that one hurt, man, because here's people I, you know, grew up with ever since, you know, fourth grade or whatever it is, fifth grade. And, you know, we running together and, oh, you're going to go to that school? I'm going to go to that school. You know, just like you do, you know, in high school, and you say, oh, man, we should go together and this, that, and the other. And then you the only one that don't get accepted. You're like, dang, man, that hurts. Like, okay, what am I going to do? I got these other two schools. One of them nobody else is going to. There's this other one where actually my brothers, we're still brothers. I mean, black dudes. Because in Saudi, the compound that we lived on, or the campus, if you want to call it that too, there was only like 4 black families amongst a gang of other white folk. And we had some Dominicans and some Puerto Rican, 1 or 2 Puerto Rican, you know, so.
Did you go to school on the compound, or did you?
Yeah,
oh, okay. So it's not like you were out like at Saudi Arabian schools. I thought maybe you. That's what I was curious about, because that's so interesting to me, bro. Yeah, I've been here my whole life, dog.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like this is interesting. Like, you're my homie, but we've never talked about this.
No. Yeah, we always talk about music and doing music and singing and karaoke and stuff, but videos. Yeah. But yeah, man. It was you know, just going to boarding school and. So school there, so just so people know, there's a group of us out there called Aramco Brats. That's the name of the company, Aramco, and we're brats, meaning just these little kids that come up in this world. And they had a elementary school and a junior high. It's on a compound. It's for expats, expatriates. Those are people that are from a different country that come into to Saudi Arabia, and they work for the company. We, as Americans, even if you're British or a different culture or ethnicity and race or whatever, you don't have any true footing in that country. You are a visitor. Wow. and you know it. And so like this whole idea of being, and this is kind of what I guess shapes my world a little bit too, right? Is, in America, white people are, white males are predominant. You know what I mean? That's what runs things. In Saudi Arabia, even if you're a white man and you're in Saudi Arabia, you don't hold that clout. You don't hold that clout. That's their country. They do things the way that they want to do it. They make the rules. You ain't got no say. And it's not a bad thing. It's a different country.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of shapes my world a little bit, worldview, and understanding that, things are different for different people in different places. And so I don't even know how I got to that point. But the schooling was, we're on a compound. And this compound, mind you, is amazing. I mean, we got Olympic-sized pools. We got professional soccer fields. We got professional baseball fields. Some are not all of them are professional. But it's just a beautiful campus. We went to school, man. So back in the day, when I first started going to school, we had Greyhound buses that we went to school in. Then within a year or two, they upgraded to Mercedes buses. We go to school in Mercedes buses.
That's crazy.
And that was just kind of how it was, man. Yeah, our bus line, like, taking a regular bus like we do here in the cities, our buses were Mercedes buses. And just amazing. The AC was amazing.
A lot of money in that country, huh?
Oh,
I just picture dudes with like tigers and like gold chains. Like I think of Busta Rhymes videos for some reason. I don't know why.
No, it's not like that. They're mostly in their outfits. But yeah, they don't bling that much. They actually look more uniform. I mean, sometimes there's some robes and things of that nature that they that show some of the royalty or royaltiness, if you want. But the majority, they all look similar. You really don't know. I mean, they got money, but they all look kind of similar. And nobody's like, at least back when I was coming up, nobody was flashing out or dripping like that. But they definitely had money. So we had on this campus, on the campus that I was raised on, if you will, and my friends, we just went to school at Daharan Junior High School. Nice facility. We had a snack bar. It reminds, it's kind of like a what was it? Zoe 101. There was a TV show for kids or something like that. I mean, we had like our own snack bar where you can get like hamburgers, French fries, pizza, milkshakes, and you can hang out over there. We had our own rec center where it was for the high schoolers, where we had all the games, Centipede and Pac-Man and Space Invaders, pool tables, ping pong tables. We had a quiet room, go watch videos and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, we was
everything was on that compound.
Yep. Everything's on the compound.
Did you guys often go off the compound? Were you allowed to?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, you can go downtown and go shopping. That's where that's where you get all your gold. Get that Saudi gold, man. Ain't no joke. You could never find anything less than 18 karat. I mean, there's nothing less than 18 karat gold.
That's so interesting to me. Hearing you say so only Americans have to leave, period. If once you reach what age, 15?
13, 14.
And are you allowed to go back to the country after that?
So you can go back and visit. You can go back and visit, right, your parents. And so that's what, I was doing was, so I got accepted to boarding school. I ended up going to Vermont, St. Johnsbury Academy in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, with some of my boys. Again, some of the black dudes that that I came up with, and a couple of white dudes. And part of the reason I chose that school was because of the music. One of my homeboys, this one cat named Mike Cote, he and I were doing music together. And he said, "Oh, man, they got a great choir. You'd love it over here." And so I ended up going out there, partly the main reason because of the music thing. And then some of the other homeboys ended up going too. So it was like 4 or 5 of us total from Saudi, at least when I went, and there was one or two older than me that were there. But we ended up in St. John's Bear Academy in Vermont. And now this was an all-white state. Vermont's an all-white state. It's the whitest state in America. But what was interesting in learning all this is, man, it was one of the dopest small towns that one could be. I mean, because they looked out for us, man. There wasn't nothing to do. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're out in the boondocks.
Wow.
So you got this boarding school, and most boarding schools they're kind of out. And the things that we did, like on a Friday night, you'd hang out at the parking lot of the McDonald's. And it was the McDonald's and a bank. And you'd be in the parking lot just hanging out. And then the locals, which they call themselves sometimes rednecks, in their trucks, driving around just in the parking lot, you know what I mean? Like doing laps. And of course, sometimes they were out there doing some other things, meaning like going out to the field and drinking and, whatever, drinking and drugging. Not all of them, but, doing teenage stuff.
Wow.
But the majority of us, because if we ever got caught drinking and stuff like that, we'd get kicked out of the school. So, but everybody would just hang out in the parking lot and be like, "What's up, man? What's going on?" They had like one place that people would go eat pizza. And so that's kind of like a big highlight, like, oh, it's good. But, some of us couldn't afford it all because our parents, even though, again, we were privileged, most of our parents didn't go Big Willie and let us just splurge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had an allowance where they'd be like, yo, you get, $50 a week. That's it. But mostly everything was taken care of anyway. I mean,
that's cool.
Food and dorms. And
one of my biggest questions, because I'm just so, like I said, growing up here and, we moved, but we're still pretty close. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what was the biggest culture shock for you coming back to the States? Because I know also on top of that, what were some of like the changes that you experienced? Because I could only imagine, I mean, you're here in the Americas for a little bit, right? You're here in the States for a little bit. You're creating friends. After a couple years, you're back to the place that you left from initially. Then you stay there for a few years. Then you have to come back here again. Like, did you have any type of resentments or anything like that? Or like, what was going through your head at this time? I'm so curious to learn about like, how, creating new friends, things like that. Like, how did that affect you?
Yeah, that's what's up. It's, I don't know. I mean, I guess because I started at such a young age, just moving around, that it was just a part of me. You know what I mean? Just knowing how to make friends and putting yourself out there. So that wasn't part. I think culturally, I think what was challenging from Saudi. So when living in Saudi Arabia, right? At least at the time when I was, they didn't have like a lot of the stuff that people are used to in America. Meaning like the milk is different. They don't have Coca-Cola because it has some relation to do with Israel. They don't have the same products. They have limited amount of products. You can't find certain food or clothes, you know what I mean? Like, or candy. Like they didn't have like Pop Rocks or Vans or OP or they didn't have any of that stuff. So you'd be excited to come back to the States to get your hands on that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so culturally, I think that was one thing: food, clothes, music. So in Saudi, it was very difficult to get your hands on music because they would censor a lot of stuff. And so like when you come into the country, they would go through your bags. And if you had like magazines, let's say, and again, dating myself, but it's all good, magazines that had pictures of girls, I mean, just regular girls.
Yeah.
I mean, just maybe like your Vogue or your Glamour and nothing risque.
Yeah.
They'd rip those pages out of the magazine.
Wow.
And music wise, it was a lot of the music was sometimes edited on cassette tapes and stuff like that. They would we try to like sneak those things in sometimes because they weren't going to listen to all your music at the when you're coming into the country. They ain't got time to do all that. But so that was selective to a certain degree. Videos, sometimes people would sneak in videos that were rated R. And again, I'm not talking about pornographic, so I'm just talking about, because in Saudi, they wouldn't show, like we had a movie theater that we could go to. And sometimes you'd be in the movie theater watching a movie and you'd be like, why is this like, doesn't make sense? And part of the reason being is because the movie was chopped up. They take out pieces where maybe somebody kissed, or if there was a sex scene, they cut that out. If there was even sometimes holding hands, they cut that out.
Wow.
And so you're watching the movie and you're like, what? Wait, what just happened? What's going on? So there was censor things. So some of the shock for me, I think, coming back to the States was being able to see what was on TV.
Man.
Like, what? The other thing was like when I was coming up there, again, there was, we didn't have internet and all that stuff. They TV was only on and they censored what we watched. So we could only, a lot of times the only thing that was on, and again, this is when I was little, was like Sesame Street, Electric Company.
Wow.
That was it. You know what I mean? So we didn't get exposed. And that's why I think maybe the other part when I was talking about Atlanta and it being so sexualized to me was because I didn't see a lot of that at all coming up in Saudi. They didn't let you really, mess with that. So I think culturally that was, as a young person, one of the things that I probably noticed was just the lack of things, I should say options, or the options were different. The products, name brands and things, they weren't the same.
Wow.
Like a lot of times we get our clothes made of tailors. We had tailors that make suits, shirts, slacks, shorts. You know what I mean? So sometimes people would get their clothes made of great quality and very inexpensive. You know what I mean? So a old trade, right, of just getting suits. So
yeah, getting suited for it
and fit for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
else.
not just off the rack. You know what I mean?
That's good. That's so interesting to me. I'm gonna have to go back and check it out. Our buddy Justin came through. This was a long time ago, man. But he grew up in South Africa, and he was talking about the differences there when he came to the States, and just how everything was just so like he ended up creating an addiction to alcohol, things like that when he came to the States when he wasn't swimming. But that's what it reminds me of, man. It's just like the amount of excess that we have as a country. Unless you've lived anywhere else, it's kind of hard to get a grasp on that.
Right. No, definitely 100%. And so, yeah, I can definitely understand the transitional challenges for people trying to, come into this country and figure out how to move.
Wow.
It can be lonely because, again, being an American is one thing, meaning I know it, right? So, but I know how it can feel to not be American and be here. I have an idea. Let me say it like that. I have an idea of how it can feel because I can sense that challenge. If I had only grew up in Saudi and didn't know, like you had said earlier, the California piece and the Atlanta piece, I probably would definitely be lost just like anybody else because it's definitely a different feel. And so then you want to, especially as you become older, trying to figure out how to cope, might end up using substances to do that. And yeah, I think like culturally, I think the drug scene and the flow of alcohol and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, like in Saudi, there were people that were making their own wine and their own beer, but there is no liquor store in the country.
Were you allowed to make your own stuff?
You could. You're not allowed.
Okay.
But they ain't gonna bust down the door unless you're like distributing it.
Yeah.
Right. But at least where we were in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, there's no liquor stores. Now, if you went across the causeway to Bahrain, that's where they had liquor. And there are some countries in the Middle East that do allow for alcohol. Dubai, evidently.
That's the tigers in the gold chain.
Yeah, now that's the tiger. Now those cats, they got it going on wealth wise, man, and creativity and innovation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But from Vermont, I ended up going to a college. It was a Baptist college called Liberty University. So LU, Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. And that was a different culture. So Vermont's all white in the sticks. And then I end up end up getting accepted to, and that's a whole different story. But
I'm loving this. Is incredible to me, dude. I feel like I'm meeting my homie for the first time.
Right.
It's cool.
here's a word to the wise. If any young people happen to be listening, or if you're a parent and got young people, and if they want to go to college, make sure that they do what they need to do their junior and senior year as far as applications, and because I did not.
I like it. Transparency leads to transformation.
Right? Yes. I did not. So here's the thing. I was having such a great time, man. I'm just blessed, man. I'm just blessed. So when I was in St. Johnsbury Academy, my junior year, me and my homeboys, we ended up putting a band together. It was called Arabian Nights.
That's dope.
And so you got to understand also, in my boarding school, man, there were ambassadors' sons, playwrights, kids. We had Japanese rock and roll stars' son at our school. So there's all these big wigs, kids, and they're all dope. They're mad cool. Everybody was mad cool for the most part. A couple of knuckleheads, but the majority of them were cool. But then we ended up putting a band together, and one of our guitarists was a Japanese brother, Takahiro, and he could kill it on the guitar, man. But I say that to say, part of the reason I didn't get shit done was because I was having such a blast, man. We had a band called Arabian Nights. I also had a DJ business called Music Express. So I combined the two. So we were traveling throughout Vermont with our band and the DJ and performing.
Wow.
As high schoolers and getting paid. And we were doing proms. We were just doing little, whatever dances they want us to do. And so I'm having a blast because I'm getting a little bit of money while I'm, in high school, not having to ask my parents for money. I'm also the student council vice president. And, so I'm having a blast, man. I'm like, I'm also working with another band. I forget the name right now, but it was an older white band. They would bring me on their shows, and I get paid. We do weddings, and I come out and do a set, and they pay me for that.
Wow.
Throughout Vermont. I was underage, so a lot of the places they played, I'd have to be. I sound like one of these like guys from the 40s and 50s, where like I had to be in the back, and I couldn't come out until it was my time. But that's kind of how it was. I was like, I had to either sit in the back of the room or in the kitchen because I was underage, so I couldn't really be in the establishment.
Yeah.
But when it was my turn to sing, my set came on. I come out there, do my set, and then have to go back.
Smoking and drinking on stage. I remember those days too, bro. That happened to me too, man. That's funny.
Yeah, just in the back chilling. And so, but man, I was living the life. And so the thing is that the culture of that school was that they assumed everybody was getting done what they needed to get done because that's just, everybody was. And so I kind of fell through the cracks because they figured I was also on honor roll. So they were like, oh, he's handling this stuff just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But he was not.
Wow.
So when it came time to go to college and graduate, I realized like I forgot to put in some applications.
Wow.
And I don't know what happened, man. I literally do not know how that really escaped me.
Lord's will, perhaps?
You're right. It had to be because I don't know. I never really thought about it until like, I'm like, wait a minute, how didn't somebody say something to me? Like, I wonder what I said.
Hey, you got to get in this van, bro. We got another show at 5 p.m. We got shit to do, Jamal.
Right. I don't know. So when it came time, I was like, oh, snap. I don't have anywhere to go.
Wow.
So I called my dad who's in Saudi. And I'm like, Dad, I'm graduating, but I don't know where I'm going. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, and again, my parents never went to college. My dad and mom went straight military, so they don't know anything about the college world.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why he made the choices he made, so somebody else could help us, get through all that. But so he ended up sending his my mom out. She was going to come anyway for graduation, but she came out a little bit earlier because she was like, what are you going to do? Because you can't just go back to Saudi. This goes back to your point of you really have to have you can't go. I couldn't go back and live in Saudi for a long period of time. You have to get permission from the consulate or the king and his team for you to be you. In other words, in Daharan, Saudi Arabia, there's no visitors.
Wow.
Meaning you can't. It's not a tourist state or a tourist country.
So I couldn't just go and visit if I wanted to.
No. You got to get permission.
Wow.
So and they don't allow a lot of that to happen. Now Dubai is something totally different, right? But in Daharan, Saudi Arabia, no. So it's not like I could go home and be like, okay, I'm just gonna kick it here for another year and a half. No. That's not
the privileges we got here, huh?
That's not an option. So my dad was definitely salty. He was like, what are you going to do? Because you can't. And I'm not leaving, he said. I'm not leaving Saudi. So anyway, he ended up coming out after a little bit further after graduation. And we ended up driving down the coast and me trying to find out where I was going to go to school. Now, mind you, again, I was having such a blast, man. I was getting awards at graduation for public speaking and for personality and academics. It was crazy, man. I walked away with like 3 or 4 awards. Again, just let you know that's how much fun I was having.
Yeah.
And
natural too. You're just natural at it.
Drop the ball. Even when you have it, you can mess up. And so we're driving down the coast, and now I'm trying to go to different. We're pulling over at different junior colleges and different colleges because I done missed the deadlines. So it's not easy to get accepted to schools if you miss deadlines and things of that nature. And the other thing too is, do I want to go to these certain schools? So I remember we pulled over at one school, and Whitney Houston had gone there when she was younger. She didn't graduate from there, from what I know, but she had attended there for a little bit. And so at the same time, I am trying to fill out some applications. And then my cousin, who went to Liberty University, she had some connections in the front office and was like, hey, you want to come out this way? Maybe I can, see what we can do as far as, late application and acceptance and all that. We'll see what we can do. Because again, my grades were great, accolades and all that stuff. So it's not that was the issue. But it did say a little bit about my character and not getting stuff done, right? But until I tell the story, and then they're like, maybe.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Hey, it's true.
And so then my cousin ends up, they hear about my accolades or whatever, and I end up getting a scholarship, some monies they had for a debate club. So I end up going to this college that, because mind you, again, a lot of the colleges that we stopped in and saw were, some weren't my style, some were like just old Victorian and you got to mind you now, when I went to boarding school, I was in a extremely structured environment, which means, we had sit down dinners every Monday at 5:00. We had to be in the dorms, by like 9:30, 10 o'clock. We had lights out at 10:30. We had study hall from 7 to 9 o'clock every day. On the weekends, we had to be back in by, if you were a freshman and sophomore, it was 11 o'clock. By junior, seniors, 12 o'clock. You had to clean up, make sure your room was clean. You had to wear button-down collar and tie and shoes. So there was a lot of structure. But when you're thinking of college, you're like, whoa, could have a good time and do me. What's up?
Yeah.
Well, going to Liberty University, which is a Baptist college, that's not the case. It was more strict than my boarding school. Man, we had church 5 times a week. Yeah, doesn't seem, if you're spiritual and, because a lot of the kids that were there were PK kids, preacher kids, and maybe they didn't mind that. But don't get me wrong, then there was like this cohort of students that were buck wild. They were like, whoa, we out of the house.
Yeah.
Whoa. And this is a Christian school, right? And I was looking at them like, y'all really wild. Like, hold up. Like, I ain't even going that far over. Oh, we had these phones in the room that connect to other phones throughout the campus. Those were cut off at like midnight. Couldn't listen to secular music. Couldn't listen to secular music at
Even
all.
in the States when you were here at the boarding school.
This is at Liberty University, so this is a college.
Wow.
The only movies you could go to were PG movies. You couldn't go to PG-13 movies, just PG movies.
Wow.
You had to be back in the dorms by midnight, period. if they find out you went to a concert of some sort, you get kicked out of that school.
Wow.
And so it was a whole different culture going to a Baptist college. I call it Baptist college, and trying to move in that space. And again, it's predominantly white. So it wasn't for me. It was for a lot of people, meaning it was a good fit for them, but it wasn't for me. So I started to do what I should have done my junior and senior year, which is apply to colleges.
Yeah.
But I was only looking at one or two. I can't remember the one or two. I mean, I know the one I was looking at Temple University. So I got accepted to Temple University in Philadelphia. These are all the different spaces I've been in, from Inglewood to Atlanta to Saudi to Vermont to a Baptist community, or Christian school, now to Temple University in Philadelphia. TU is an amazing school, but it is in the middle of the city. And at least when I was going there, it was kind of if you go outside of the boundaries of Temple University, you're kind of in the throes of it, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a little rough. But as long as you're within the boundaries of Temple University, like on the campus, which is large, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's long and it's wide, but if you go outside of those boundaries, you're kind of on your own. And that's where I began to like really deal with a lot more Black people other than Atlanta. But now I'm older, of course. And again, learning how to move, because I didn't stay just on the campus. I mean, I'm out in the community with folks and learning, watching, studying. And so that was a whole different culture.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely.
So there, yeah. So like I said, we got Inglewood, Atlanta, Vermont, Liberty University, Temple University.
Saudi Arabia
was in there, yeah, no doubts. And then finally, where I'm stuck now, I mean that in a loving way, was I transferred from Temple University to U of A.
Wow.
University of Arizona. And so this is a whole different culture.
All right. Well, before we go into that, I got a couple questions for you. So,
my bad.
As far as like, no, you're good. This is so fascinating, bro. I love this. This makes my heart happy. Do you still talk to some of your homeboy? Like you said, you had friends that were like rockers from like different countries. Do you still keep in contact with all those friends from back then?
So yeah, everybody, of course, Facebook definitely helps with that. Some of them we definitely connect. We don't talk on a regular, but we'll see stuff that people put up, and I'll be like, "Oh, what's up, man? What's good?"
That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, Facebook. If it wasn't for Facebook, that wouldn't happen whatsoever. So shout out Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's got to be so interesting to see your friends in different countries doing different things. How they turned out. Like that's especially experienced life like that. It's very interesting. Well, you said your dad had came back and you guys went and drove the coast shortly after you graduated. Did he come back because you didn't have those options?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was why he had to come back.
No, that's why I came back early. Definitely came back early, and he was supposed to.
Moved here?
No.
Oh, just to visit.
No, just to start his vacation earlier than he had to. He had to use extra time. Yeah, he wasn't happy, man. He wasn't happy at all. Yeah, that's the first time I think I see my dad the most disappointed in me.
Oh, man.
So that hurt a little bit. But, we bounced back, and he chalked it up to a teenager and dumb decisions. So, and it was.
So when you went to TU, did you have a hard time with like, because like you said, you were out there, was a little bit more gritty, a little bit more stuff that you had to deal with, but you also still had that structure of the college. Being so structured growing up, being an adult at TU and being able to make those decisions going out there to the streets, did you have a hard time with that? Did the structure keep you balanced, or did you wild out a little bit?
No, the structure kept me balanced, and I think also just the things that my parents instilled in me.
Yeah.
I was blessed, man. And again, you got to, and of course we haven't gotten into it here, and there's a lot, I mean, because my story is just so full, but just seeing like people deal with substances and challenges in their lives coming up. And I used to visit when we were in Saudi before I came back to the States. We used to visit, in Philadelphia, because my dad's from Philly, Yardley, Pennsylvania, Bristol, all up in that corridor, and New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey. And so we would come back and visit family and stuff like that. And, my cousins, shout out my cousins, love y'all, man. They taught me a lot of things. My one cousin, Michael, kind of came close. He showed me a little bit about the streets, showed me a little bit about the projects. And even before that, we used to come back and just see challenges people were having with substances and money and stuff like that. And so, and my dad and mom educating me showing me the word of God, it was like I knew I could go sideways, and that the sacrifices that they were making for us, I wanted to do good. And so what I did play with as far as the structure was, and had to learn, was how to not go too far right or too far left, right? But I was a quick learner, and it's, I think, partly just my personality and what God put in me, right? I don't like to mess up. You know what I mean? If I like kind of mess up a little bit, I'm like, ooh, okay, let me pull back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to go too far down into the trenches to realize, okay, I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Some other people and their personalities, I get it. They need that, but that's not me. And so I think had I not had structure, then I definitely would have went off the rails. I mean, as far as, partying and bad decisions and things of that nature. But I think because boarding school had this structure to it, it helped me have and it's almost to a fault, almost, because I'm so structured. Like, I have a hard time with spontaneity. I can do it, don't get me wrong, but it takes a lot more out of me to do something spontaneously than, because if it doesn't fit my structure, I'm kind of like, ooh, like, an example is I do karaoke Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
My boy, he called me last night and he was like, hey, man, I saw this spot, man. It's got, it's Monday night and they're starting it up. And I'm like, ooh.
That's going to be a no for me, dog.
I'm like, ooh, that don't fit in the structure. Hold on, I only do that Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So, things like that. Again, like I said, too, Mark. But structurally, I think it definitely helped me personally. And I didn't need to fly off the rails to experience and have a good time. So it was cool. It was cool for me, man, structure-wise. But the thing that's interesting is I saw so many people, man. And I think that's the other thing. So for me, and this is what's so interesting about people, right, is, and all the people that I've worked with and the people you've worked with, being BHT and me working in residential facilities and a counselor and this, that, and the other, is all of us are so different, man, as far as just who we are and how we react and what we need. And it's interesting that I'm a quick learner. I can learn from what you're doing. I don't necessarily have to go through it.
Yeah.
But there are some people that are like, I saw you messed up, but I need to go through it myself.
Hard head, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and that's just different people. And I get it. Sometimes, like my brother, he got to do it himself, even though he know that, and it possibly could be a different outcome for him, whatever. But I'm just not that person. I'm that type like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna jump off that cliff. I don't care.
Yeah,
if I have to change the, my leg movement and my arms, and maybe I can do it better. But there's some cats that are like, you know what? Well, he didn't jump off quite right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let me try it. And that's cool. I mean, I get it when I say it's cool. I mean, I understand that mentality of, I got to do it, but let's then talk about some different things you can do. So when I was in college and even boarding school, I mean, I saw people get kicked out because they didn't want to follow the rules. I saw people drop out of college because they wanted to overly indulge in substances and things of that nature. So, But yeah, that wasn't me. Always strapped up as far as like to put the helmet on the soldier. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't trying to get nobody pregnant.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I was like...
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think to me, being born and raised in America and seeing only this culture, right? I mean, it's crazy. Even working in these type of facilities, you see the excess. We were just talking about this with that boy Justin. Like I was telling you about my homeboy Justin that came in here, that came from South Africa. That song Hotel California from the Eagles is talking about all the excess from when they came to Los Angeles for the first time, all the sex, all of the drinking, the excess. And I can only imagine, somebody who was raised with that structure, that is a huge blessing in itself, because you're able to see how you could easily fall off the rails, easily go left, easily go right. For a lot of kids that are growing up, especially nowadays with the drug epidemic, fentanyl is getting out of control, all these drugs out there. People are growing up without parents. you know, your father instilled that in you, that he helped keep that generation going and not have a generational curse. You know, there's a lot of people growing up with generational curses. Don't have their parents, no structure. All they know is the excess. All they know is, you know, best clothes, all this food, sex. I mean, bro, I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot of people who, like I said, unless you've been out of the country, you can't really appreciate all of the luxuries we have here. A lot of us take them for granted.
No doubt. So it's interesting you say that. That's one of the things that my dad did. So the other thing I didn't share, and again, this is why I'm a privileged black man, and shout out my dad, may he rest in peace, and my mom's, thank her for the sacrifices they made for us. I mean, well, let me say this first and then I'll say that. But I got to travel the world, my brother and I. I mean, I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to Vienna.
I want to go there so bad.
I've been to, we've been to so many different countries.
Awesome.
And one of the things that my dad wanted us to see also in our travels was what it means to not have money, what it means to be in a third world country. What's interesting is when we look at people that are low socioeconomic status here, or don't have money, if you will, or what we call poor. And this is not an excuse, and not that things should be better, but I want to just people to understand that a lot of the times the things even that people that are lacking here in the U.S., it's nothing compared to a third world country. And I say that having been to third world countries where like we get upset as we should with people being unsheltered, and we need to do better. And there are countries though where, you know, people that are unsheltered here, if they can get access, can at least get clean water.
Yeah.
They can go into ask that restaurant owner and or patrons, you know, hey, can I get some food? In these third world countries, I mean, there just are no toilets or running water, or, I mean, food's hard to come by even the person that's supposedly doing well, right? They can't even ask, you know, in third world countries, the person that is even lower can't even ask what might be the doing well person, can you give me something? Even though they do, right? Because it's just an interesting philosophy, way of being, or it's just interesting. Different cultures look at different things differently and how they help one another. And that goes to your point earlier too of just, you know, my worldview is different because I grew up in different countries and seen different things that most Americans haven't. Mm-hmm. One thing that we didn't talk about is even like, you know, I was in the country during Desert Storm. It's when we had the war. My family was there, and I got to see and go out on the front line and meet the troops that were out there. And all I could see was a sea of black and brown faces on the front lines. We had gas masks, you know, in our house. So like if, you know, a missile came or something like that, we had to be able to put those on. And so I've seen a lot of different things, and I don't want people to walk away thinking that I'm saying that just because our unsheltered are less than, that we shouldn't do more for. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, no.
My only point is just that privileged, you know, Americans, we are privileged, but there are some countries that are doing a lot better than us, and there are some that are doing a lot worse than us. And I think we should recognize that and be aware that I personally believe that there's something for us to gain from everybody, you know, worldwide. And yes, I love the mentality of us being great, but they're and amazing and number one, but there are a lot of things that we could be doing better and that we can learn from each other. And that's even when it comes to prevention, intervention, and treatment of substances. So, but yeah, privilegedness is a good thing. I think if we use it correctly. And so the thing I was going to share with you earlier, Buddha, was I keep saying that my parents made a sacrifice, and people may be thinking, well, y'all were making money. You traveling the world. You got Mercedes-Benz cars and this, that, and the other. Well, the thing is that you have to understand is that we also lost some freedom.
Yeah.
We lost freedom because when you're in somebody else's country, you don't necessarily get the rights that you have as an American. You don't have the rights of an American. when you're in somebody else's backyard and in their country. You have to abide by their rules and laws. And by doing so, they're not the same as America. You don't have freedom of speech and innocent until proven guilty. Like in Saudi Arabia, you're guilty until proven innocent.
That's crazy.
Period. You know what I mean? So, and you don't, have the resources that, you may have access to in the United States. So it's just like with, what was my homegirl's name? The basketball woman, Brittany Griner, who got caught with the marijuana going into Russia.
Yeah.
See, I grew up knowing that if I ever got caught partly because of my mom, right? You SOL. Yes, if the U.S. can help you, yes, but you don't get to carry that American privilege in different countries. They don't give an F.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
They don't care. Matter of fact, they may think you're arrogant and you're whatever. They don't care. And so that's what's really interesting, having the opportunities that I've had and learning how to move again, move in Inglewood, move in Atlanta, how to move in a rural boarding school, how to move at a Liberty University College, College, how to move at Temple in the streets, how to move when you're in a different country, when you travel. Because Americans, like, a lot of times go to these different countries with this bravado of like, oh, I'm the ish. No, you're not. You are not.
Yeah.
You don't have the protections that you think you do. So you best be careful. It's the same way when you're in the streets, in the hood. I know I can't move the same way in certain barrios or certain projects that I may think I can move somewhere else. That's all street knowledge and stuff like that. And so the sacrifices that my parents made were us not being able to necessarily move like an American. And even with that, but what was kind of cool though, in one regard, is that in Saudi, like, the white people in Saudi are kind of like, and not frowned upon is not the right word, but again, they don't have the clout. But my dad and our family as Black people, we kind of had clout.
Wow.
They weren't offended by us. They weren't degraded by Black Americans. They weren't. Matter of fact, a lot of them look like us, right? And the majority of them are dark-skinned. So, of course, white people, with the majority of them, right, with the privilege of being white, think that they're superior. But in Saudi Arabia, you white, you are the one that's out.
Wow.
And so
interesting.
But we as Black people, they were kind of like, what's up? How you doing? All right, what's up? We got you. You know what I mean? That's a different feeling of being able to walk around and be like, but the other part of it though, that we knew that was there though, is that we're American.
Yeah. So
it's still like, but at least we're not white in America.
You cool, but watch your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Right. For real. Hey, don't slip up. We're giving you a pass, but hey, you mess up, we'll pull it. And so that was really interesting, man, to be able to have the love in this country, and maybe, like I said, a pass if needed, because of the skin tone of my color. Wow. That was dope. It was dope. And so that's what I mean by, like, my mom couldn't drive outside of the compound. So, my mom, when she go outside of the compound, had to cover up her hair and her arms. Wow. And so she sacrificed a lot of things, for us to be able to have this privilege. It didn't come easy. And I think that's, I don't want to digress too far, but just a statement in being able to have things or opportunities, you have to, there is some sacrifice involved. Okay. And I think when we apply that to mental health and substance use, misuse, and abuse, and people on the road to recovery, in order to have that recovery, you have to sacrifice some things. Sacrificing those things can and probably will help you be and do better.
Amen.
But you have to just sometimes be willing to make that sacrifice of, I call it changing your play friends, your playground, and your play things. Sometimes that can hurt because you're like, but no, I don't want to leave these friends because, we used to do A, B, and C, get high, get drunk, or, do whatever. And then your playthings are, you got to give up, you know what I'm saying, that pipe or the paraphernalia or, whatever. Your play grounds are, you may not be able to go to that same restaurant or bar or, community function because that's where you can get caught up.
Yeah.
So sacrificing some of those things, I think that's for almost any of us to get ahead. And that's even for me now as I'm thinking about my business. Like, oh man, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to sacrifice so that I can grow? So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man. It's my life is, my wife tells me, your story is so interesting. I'm like, not really. And she's like, oh my God, it's so interesting.
It's pretty interesting, bro. I'll be real. That's pretty cool.
Like, what? So anyway, man, there's a lot of stuff I don't share with people because one of the things that I learned, I'll tell my story pieces at a time.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing too that I learned in, growing up in Saudi and being a black man whose dad and mom had money, people thought I did. And so when I would travel from Saudi to the U.S., so at 13, 14 years old, man, I'm traveling by myself.
Wow.
I'm on a plane. I'm going from Vermont to New York to Amsterdam to Saudi. Or I'm going from, Vermont to Chicago to LA to London, and then to Saudi. I'm traveling by myself. And so one of the things as I was growing up, my dad, he was teaching us because he knew that we would have to leave. He would teach us how to move in the airport and how to pay attention to what's happening and what's going on, because you can get got pretty simply. There's always people, trying to get you. And especially like in New York, when I go to LaGuardia or I go to JFK, always had to have your head kind of like on swivel to a certain degree, because there's cats that'll get you, man, from a taxi cab to some type of scheme to pickpocketing you to taking your luggage to whatever. And had to learn just how to just pay attention at a young age. And it was beneficial to me. And a lot of my friends had to do the same thing.
Wow.
So staying in a hotel, had to get a hotel in New York by yourself at 13, 14 years old.
That's crazy. Like Kevin McAllister in the limo with the cheese pizza.
Yeah, and we sometimes we get a limo, and we get a limo from LaGuardia to JFK, or sometimes we get a limo from Vermont to Boston, or we do crazy stuff, man.
That's cool, bro. So, you were talking about when you came here to the U of A, when you got transferred, just going back to your story, that was a completely different thing, and you've been here ever since. How was that?
Yeah, that was totally different, man, in a sense of, I thought I was getting back into the mainstream of the United States, if you will, because I was out in rural, Vermont, and then I go to Philly, and I'm like, all right, cool, the city, what's up? We moving and grooving. And then I'm thinking like, Arizona. I didn't know anything about Arizona. My brother applied to go to school out here, and I hadn't been with him in a few years, so I wanted to rekindle our relationship and make sure that we were good. And so, man, I get out here, man, get off the plane, and I'm like, what the hell did I do? I'm like, because, you landing in the desert again. Oh, for me again.
Yeah.
A desert. I look around, I just see these mountains, if you want to call them mountains. And I'm just like, man, what did I do? I'm like, and then like the pace out here is mad slow. You know what I mean? You think about from LA to Philly to New York. People are moving. This, the way they dress, the way they think, the way that they talk, the way that you're moving. Here, it was so slow, and hardly no transportation really. And even today, it's crazy. Transportation ain't that the greatest.
Yeah.
We just got a streetcar, right? In Tucson at least. And actually in Phoenix too, right? That's all within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it just felt different, man. And then, for me being a black man, it was hard to find like the black community. And again, I'm not a sports person, meaning play sports or anything like that. And so when I went to the U of A, even when I went to Temple, everybody thought that I played football or I was, part of some type of sport team. And it's like, nah, I'm just here for academics, y'all. And they're like, what? A black dude, academics. Wait. How'd you get in here and you don't play sports? I'm kind of smart, I guess. Yeah. Right? And so even coming to the U of A, people were like, oh, so what sport you play? No, I don't play no sports.
Wow.
What you doing? Well, just going to classes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so trying to find a community that was black and not necessarily just sports related was a little challenging. So I ended up hanging a lot with the Mexican bros. And that's where I kind of built camaraderie there. And don't get me wrong, still kicked it with the black community too. But also just found some similarities.
Yeah.
More so. And I found it in Temple too with black and Dominicans and Hispanic and Latinx and Puerto Ricans. And that's where I began also kind of, but then again, I grew up with them in Saudi too. So it was... again, the minorities stick together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No matter, in Saudi, there was only so many of us. And so the darker skinned people would kind of look out for each other. And then Vermont, same thing. Darker skinned folks kind of just looked out. And then going to Liberty University was something totally different. Temple, definitely. And then out here. So the looking at the difference was just the slowness. And it might be because it's so hot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
Because it's just so
everyone's dehydrated.
Right. They're like, you know what? We should just slow it down. Just keep it cool. But one of the things that I recognized in Tucson specifically that's amazing, and I don't know if this is, I feel it most on the South Side. That's where I live, work and play. Is man, just the warmth, the food, I don't know, man. It's just a feeling. And I don't know if everybody gets it, but I get it and feel it from the community. And again, it might be just because of the way I move, and that's not trying to be, arrogant or anything like that. But I feel so comfortable. I feel like more so than I would. And, I'm doing well in life, but I would never feel comfortable in the foothills.
Yeah.
Could I probably, I know I could definitely afford a house up there, but that's just not, I want to be where I'm comfortable. You know what I mean? And for certain people or some people, they may be like, oh man, but you don't have like the nice big house and the name of, I live in the foothills or I live in Dove Mountain or I live, I don't need all that though, man. What I need to be is comfortable and I need to be embraced. And that's what I get from Tucson, at least on the side of town that I live, where it's just, for the most part, I feel love. You know what I mean? And so from people that I've talked with, they feel that Tucson has a certain feel to it that they like also. And that's why a lot of people like being here.
Yeah.
From music to arts to the culture to the food. So when I say different, I think, and it's a big, small town, if that makes sense.
That makes very much sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
It's not small, and it's not big, but it's kind of big enough. I mean, we're not Phoenix. When I think about Philly, it's not Philly. It's not as small as like when I was in Vermont. In Lynchburg, Virginia, it's probably about the same-ish, but a lot more flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. If you come from a really small town, it's enough to kind of get that big city like feel. And it's like if you're coming from Phoenix, it's enough to be grateful that your city ain't as big as Phoenix is.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Like it's too much.
So that's the difference that I see, man. And definitely looking for opportunity. To once my kids are growing up, maybe to maybe go feel somewhere else. But I don't even know where that is because when I look at Philly, man, Phoenix, I'm like. I go up there a lot for trainings and conferences and speaking and stuff like that. Man, that traffic, I'm like, God dang, man. Like, I don't know if I want to mess with it. Reminds me of L.A., you know what I mean? 405 and whatnot. It's like, dang, dog. Yeah. So anyway, that's one of the things that I noticed. And when I say, especially when you're in college and you want a lot of nightlife or, Philly had a lot of that. So to go from Philly to Tucson definitely was a shock. It was like, dang, man, I was in the city. And I got to figure it out.
And going back to that comfortability thing, it's like you've never really had that because you've always had to move. You've always had changes, and which is cool because it allows you to adapt to different situations and move in different places. Like I think that's a really cool trait to have.
Yeah, but I think the downside of that, as I'm getting a little older now, is because I still want to move, meaning make moves and do things. that because I did so much of it my entire life, I'm kind of like, man, I just want to chill. But if I want to continue to grow, I gotta keep doing some of those uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get tired of being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want something that's kind of like, whew, okay, I know this, right? And so that's one of the things I'm battling with myself now is like, all right, man, you know how to do this, man. Come on, let's go ahead and make these changes and, shake it up and do it. And so, and that's from a business standpoint of just taking risk and being uncomfortable, comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's definitely cool, man. And like I said, having you as a friend, we've met in different circles and had fun and hung out together and stuff. But being able to hear your story is absolutely fantastic. Like getting to know you a little bit more makes a lot more sense. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I know you've been out here for Tucson for how many years now?
Now, man, I've been here for a minute, man. So 94, 95, get stuck. So yeah.
Okay, you came at the perfect time. The music was popping. Everything was good.
Man. It was, oh man. Yeah, Tucson, definitely. It was dope. It's dope.
That's cool. And so now in the community, LPKNC, that's your baby. That's what you do.
Yes.
Explain that a little bit. What is that?
Yeah, man. So, asking how I kind of got into this work, heard a little bit about my history. It just felt like continuing to work with people because that's who I engage with all through my travels and hearing their stories, and what held people back was, substances. And out of college, got a job. I became a senior residential counselor. And then, so did that for years and then ended up working in the projects, what they call the project here in Tucson. And that kind of blew me away because I was kind of like, these ain't the projects, bro.
They're still standing.
Right. Y'all got, some of these houses got backyards in their houses. I'm like, what's going on here? Because again, coming from Philly and New York and all that, seeing the high rises and all that, it was just kind of blew me away. That's tough work. The people were amazing. The young people were amazing. Just seeing their growth and stuff like that. Just loved it, man, because I've always worked with youth. I was a big brother and sister. I was a big brother Sisters of America when I was at Temple.
That's cool.
So working there. And then ended up working in the 10th Ave Projects, which is down here in Tucson, and just fell in love, man, with the youth, the families. And then that's where Work With Coalition began, because then I started working in the 36th and Park area, which was really known back in the day for 10th Ave Projects and 36th and Park area, really known for gang activity, was working with gangs, drugs was running rampant. And 10th Ave Projects, I mean, they couldn't even get pizza delivered there. I mean, the pizza people wouldn't even go there.
Wow.
36th and Park, this is when crack was a big thing. The gangs were prevalent, definitely in 10th Ave and 36th Park area. Loved working with the young people, man, and just helping them to make, good decisions and try to stay alive, basically. So out of 36th and Park area came a coalition called Keno Neighborhoods Coalition. That was comprised of 4 neighborhoods: Las Vistas, Western Hills, South Park, and Pueblo Gardens.
Wow.
And so that's where Keno Neighborhoods Council Coalition came out of. And then Liberty Partnership was another coalition that was about 2 miles down the street. And so me and the woman, shout out Diana Jimenez-Young, DJY, we collaborate. We met when we were young in our career, and we're best friends to this day.
That's awesome.
And so LPKNC, helping the community. We're predominantly on the South Side. You helped us when we were the coalition in creating a video that was dope. We got to put that in Harkins Theater and stuff like that. Was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
And Mike.
Shaheen.
Yeah, man. His skills dope on the videography and stuff. But and yeah, man. So we have youth groups that we work with predominantly in the Sunnyside Unified School District. We got workshops that we do, and I think by us educating families and communities, reminding youth that sometimes, especially nowadays, and you mentioned it earlier, fentanyl, this is not a scare tactic, and this, that literally one pill can kill you nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, it was kind of like, people just making this up that drugs will kill you. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we definitely knew the meth can kill you and stuff like that, but not necessarily after just one hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you pop that one pill nowadays, literally, that's it, man.
Pills are like, I heard a client say that the pills are going for like $1 a piece.
Yeah,
in the
they're
street.
$1 a piece right now. Yeah,
Die for $1, bro.
Yep. And you don't know, man. You don't, and that's the other thing that's scary about it is with any drug, you really don't know because, if it's powder form, liquid form, you don't know what's in it. But the problem is that people are trying to pass these pills off as if though there's something else sometimes too, right? Like it's Adderall or, whatever. Percocet. I would say Percs, yep. X bars, right? But in them could be that fentanyl, which is not what you're searching for, but then you end up getting it and now you're gone. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at is we've always done prevention, intervention, and promoting mental health and wellness. Okay. And so, yeah, some of the stories we've had from young people are great, saying that it was interesting. I had a young man the other day, man. It was actually in November. I went to a school and I spoke. I still use the up to it.
Yeah.
Do it. We do it.
Because we used to.
Yeah. I use Buddha did a track for me, if you will, or like a little 30-second clip that introduces me.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that until you said that right now.
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, I forgot. I know. I remember the thing.
Yeah.
I remember like the phrase, but I don't remember doing that song. Like I remember now, but I have to hear it again.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I got it. You might want to drop it on him just to shake this up a little bit. But I got it on my phone. I use it still to this day. But this young man, after I spoke to 300 students or whatever, he caught me in Safeway, man, like a supermarket. It was right around Thanksgiving. And he was like walking back and forth. Like I'm in the aisle, right? And I see this guy on the side of my eye, a young person. They kept going back and forth, passing by. And he'd look and he'd be like, and then he walked and then he'd come back and he'd look down the aisle and he'd be like, and then he finally got bold enough. He came down the aisle. He's like, "Hey, are you Mr. Jamal?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Up to it. What's up, man?" Yeah. He's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, man, you're one of the best speakers we had come talk to our school so far." He's like, "But man, what you said like touched me." He's like, "Because sometimes I find it hard to not like make the bad choices that some of the other kids are, but what you shared with me let me know that it's okay for me not to, and that I'm not alone." He's like, and that made me feel real confident. And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that, man. Cool. That's what I'm trying to do." And I was like, "So what year are you?" He's like, "I'm a freshman." I was like, "What? Okay, that's what's up, man." I was like, "Well, hold on to that message, man, and keep it with you through the next 3 years until you graduate." I was like, "Well, you plan on graduating?" He's like, "Yes, sir, I am, man. I'm gonna make it happen, yo." And I was like, "All right, cool." I was like, "Hey, but don't be rolling up on me like that, man."
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So, that's what it's about, man, is like, hearing those type of things from young people saying that they sometimes, because the message out there is that everybody's using and everybody's doing it and the cool kids are doing it. When the fact of the matter is, man, 70% is within Arizona, 70% of the youth are not using. But you don't get to see them shining or that it seems like that's cool.
Yeah.
But actually those are the cool kids. These 30%, man, are gambling. They're gambling with their life and their future relationships and their future occupations and their livelihood. Mm-hmm. Because out of that 30%, not everybody going to, get out of it. Mm-hmm. And that battle, if you ain't got to do it, I wouldn't recommend it. I think the other thing that is reminding people that it's okay to get help, especially to our men out there. Again, this is for everybody, but for our men out there, I want to talk to you and just let you know that it's not being weak asking for help. Mm. There's actually strength in asking for help. And I know society may make it seem as if though because I asked for help that I'm lesser than, but actually in asking for help makes you more than, because you recognize that I need assistance to go just a little bit further. And there's nothing wrong with that. Most successful people, I'll say I'll put it on the line, all successful people didn't do it by themselves. There's just no way. They did not do it by themselves. And so if you want to be successful in your own personal life, not only monetarily, but with your relationships and, making a positive impact in this world, it's okay to feel down. But if you find yourself feeling down, and out for longer than 2 weeks, it's okay to seek that help.
Yeah.
It's okay to let a friend know. So it's okay to let a significant other know, like, hey, I need some help, or I need to talk, or I need to, for us guys, a lot of times we don't want to show our emotions and we want to keep things bottled up. That's not healthy. I know I've lost a few acquaintances, due to suicide. I wish that they had reached out. And I wish that maybe I wasn't a little bit closer to them. Again, Facebook is great, but when you're 10,000, 20,000 miles away, it's a little hard. Yeah. But if you happen to be in the space where somebody is, and you just check up on them, or I think I want to spend more time with this next sentence or two, is just to say we're always sharing with people how to recognize the signs and symptoms. At least I train on that. I'm a CIS trainer, Safe Talk, QPR, question, persuade, refer, suicide alertness for everyone, talk, ask, listen, keep safe, and assist, applied suicide intervention skills training. So then we'll just throw those acronyms at it, folks, and them not know. Is showing people the signs and symptoms. But what I like to let people know on this, the listeners, is if you're ever, it's just as important, if you can, to let somebody know that you're hurting. Because if you don't, you leave a lot of guessing to the people around you, and they may not have been trained to recognize those signs and symptoms. And we're going to train them. There's a force of people out there training them, even probably here at the ARC, that are trained in that. And so we're in the community and we're moving. But if you're feeling some type of way, it's okay to say, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay. I know Facebook and social media, Insta and TikTok make it seem like you got to put on this great face and everything's got to be all right and everybody's life is cool. But the sad part is a lot of those people that we end up hearing, those influencers that suicided, when we look back at their TikToks and stuff, we're like, oh God, they weren't that happy. Yep. As soon as that camera goes off, right? I mean, just like you and I, we're used to being on the mic. Yep. We can pull up that character, if you were, that voice. Like, what's up? All right, cool, right? Yeah. And then, shut it all down. And then be like,
turn your phone off and
be in a space, right?
I feel you.
And then it's in those moments that folks need to be like, hey, let me call Buddha up and talk to him. Let me hit that hotline. You know what I'm saying? Let me hit the CRC. You know what I'm saying? Hit that number up. So I just want to let people know, man, hey, there's strength in you sharing how you feel. There's nothing weak about it at all. So brothers out there, man, do your thing.
Absolutely.
It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. So that's what LPKNC does, man. And so that's my baby right now. So that's all I got, man. It was fun telling my story. I'll probably have to watch this again, or I might get the raw tape from you, man. So maybe I'll write a book or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, and I mean, thank you so much, for coming in and taking the time to share that story with it was such a pleasure for me, as a homie too, dude, like being able to hear that, to know more about you, and just thank you for everything that you're doing in the community, helping, our fellow brothers and sisters out there get up off the streets and get their lives together. And, it's the same, even with the suicide prevention. I appreciate you speaking on that too, because, the suicidal ideations, homicidal ideations, addictive traits, all those things kind of go together, man. And we've talked about it all the time. It's really hard to clean a mess when you don't see it in the first place. A lot of us don't understand the root causes of why we use, of why, why we're going through these emotions and feeling this turmoil on the inside. There's always something that needs to be unraveled. There's always a trauma. There's always something that causes it. And once you get a grip on it, once you get a grasp on that, it's a lot easier to heal from that point.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can only, I like it. You can only clean up what you know. So
absolutely.
I like it, man.
Yeah,
I like
man.
it. Yes, sir.
Absolutely, bro. Up to it.
Down to it.
We do it.
Because we used to it.
Amen.
Yes,
that's what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to my homeboy, Jamal, one more time, a.k.a. Mr. President, El Presidente.
Exactly.
The man right here, bro. The killer. He kills it on the karaoke's, man. This been my homie for a long time, so it's a pleasure to get him in here. For all the listeners out there, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Please share this with a friend, somebody who could benefit from listening to it, and thank you guys so much for the continued support. We hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Much love, God bless, and we will definitely see you on the next one. Peace. What's going on, everybody? This is Buddha from the ARCast, and I just wanted to thank you for checking out this week's episode. It means a lot, and if you could share it with a friend or a loved one, somebody you need in recovery, or maybe somebody who just needs that little bit of extra positivity in their life, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join us here on the ARCast, either in the studio live or online, hit us up. The links are down in the show notes of this episode, and on there, you can find direct links to our main website here at Americas Rehab Campus and all of our social media platforms. Follow us. We keep the posts positive and motivational, focused on recovery, health, and wellness. As you know, in this modern day and age, we need as much love as possible, y'all. And as always, if you or somebody you know is in need of substance abuse treatment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, and our direct phone number is 1-833-272-7342. Once again, that phone number is 1-833-272-7342. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love and God bless. Peace.